Hello spell slingers and welcome to the first video on my brand new YouTube channel, MTG Helix. Today we are going to also be starting off our first series of the channel called Tribal Talk. And in this case, the tribe for the week is soldiers. So, we're very excited to get off with this first deck, and here we go. So, to start the game off, we have Esper Sentinel and Legion Loyalist. Both are 1-drops. Legion Loyalist has haste, and it has Battalion. And whenever it and at least 2 other creatures attack, they gain First Strike and Trample until end of turn. And can't be blocked by tokens, which can become very powerful when you have a lot of small creatures. Now, Esper Sentinel pairs really well with Talia Guardian of Thraben. They both make opponents' things cost more, which is very useful against a lot of the format. And Esper Sentinel also gives you a card draw potential. So that's always great. Now next we're going to talk about Anafenza Kintree Spirit. And it just says whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, bolster 1. And so it just makes things more powerful. And so on that train, we're going to talk about our creatures that make things more powerful. And so the first one of these creatures that make things more powerful is Field Marshal. Field Marshal gives other soldiers +1/+1 and First Strike, which can be very powerful. Second, we have Legion War Boss, which has Mentor, and it also creates more creatures when you go to the combat phase. And those creatures are attacking, but when you combine that with Mentor, it can make that a very powerful ability. Next, we have Tajik Legion's Edge. And it also has Mentor, but it also has another very powerful ability, which prevents all non-combat damage that would be dealt to other creatures you control. And what that does is it gives us a lot of protection from any of the burn spells, any bolts, any kind of removal that is from damage. And that is a great way to deal with those things. And next for this category, we have Captain of the Watch, which has Vigilance. It gives other soldiers +1/+1 in Vigilance. And when it enters the battlefield, it puts 3 1/1 white soldier creature tokens onto the battlefield with it. So it also creates creatures which, in the end, get more powerful from it. Finally, in this category, we have Honor of the Pier, which is not a creature, but it is an enchantment. It's a 2-drop, and it gives white creatures you control +1/+1. And since everything but 2 of our creatures in the deck are white creatures, the majority of our deck gets powered up by this card, which is great. Now, all these buff abilities are great, but they're even better when you combine them with Swiftblade Vindicator. Swiftblade Vindicator on its own has Double Strike, Vigilance, and Trample, and it's a 2-drop 1/1. Now, what this means is, when you combine all these effects that are buffing up our soldiers, Swiftblade Vindicator experiences these almost as double because of Double Strike, which is just a super, super powerful ability. Next, we have Bali Banneret, which helps us play our more expensive spells by lowering the cost of them. So it just says Kithkin spells and soldier spells you play cost 1 less to play, which is always great. Now, we also have Preeminent Captain. Now, Preeminent Captain is one of the more important parts of this deck because when it attacks, it lets us put soldier creature cards from our hand onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. Now, we have a lot of 3-drops in this deck, and we also have Captain of the Watch, which is a 6-drop. However, with Preeminent Captain, that lets us get these out onto the field a lot easier because we can do it for free. Next, moving on, we have a couple removal spells, so we run Path to Exile for that, just to help us get to where we need to be so we can keep our creatures alive long enough to get to the point where they're buffed up enough so we can win the game. And moving on from this, we have our lands. So starting off, we have Arid Mesa, which just helps us get lands in our colors. We have Cavern of Souls, which is a great land for any tribal deck, but we run it in this deck. And we also run Unclaimed Territory for a similar reason. They have a very similar ability. Inspiring Vantage is the red-white fast land. And then we run a mountain and a couple plains because those are our colors. And we run Sacred Foundry because those are also our colors. And it's a shock land, and it gets us both our colors easier. Moving on to the sideboard, we have Chalice of the Void, which can be very powerful against Cascade decks and against decks that play a lot of 1-drops and things like that, and can be very punishing towards those decks. We have Relic of Progenitus, which is for Graveyard Hate. We have Core Firewalker, which gives us a great card against specifically red aggro decks, such as Burn. We have Tithe Taker, which helps us deal with control decks. We have Tocatli Honor Guard, which helps us deal with Enter the Battlefield abilities. And we have Wear and Tear, which helps us deal with artifacts and enchantments. And so the overall way we win with this deck is we win by dealing damage, and we win by using those small creatures and buffing up those small creatures with our creatures that make those creatures more powerful. And you'll see that a lot with other tribal decks as we go along with the series. And yeah, that's the basic premise of the deck. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you back at the channel very soon.